I will do the intro. Where did I put that? Okay. Hi guys, welcome to Terror Talk. I'm here today with Tom, and we are interviewing Pete Yagmin. Pete is an independent filmmaker from Massachusetts, and he's known for the supernatural horror comedy Dark Roast, which was nominated Best New England Film in 2014 at the Massachusetts Independent Film Festival, and the tongue-in-cheek slasher film Planchette, which is like the Ouija board thingy that you use to move around. It won the Outstanding Sound Design and Outstanding Original Song in 2015 at the Boston Indie Mafia Wicked Film Challenge, which is a mouthful to say. How are you doing today, Pete?
How you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for coming on our show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I think this has been on my calendar for a few months now, so I've been patiently looking forward to it.
Excellent. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got into the horror genre?
Sure. Well, you already said quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm an independent filmmaker from Massachusetts. New England's been my home my whole life, so New England really has an influence, both in its history and its architecture, and just everything about New England really has a large influence on the style of my films and my writing and everything like that. And excuse me, allergies myself. It's terrible.
It is.
And what got me into horror? I've always kind of been into horror. My mother was big into horror movies, and I saw quite a few things that at much too young of an age that probably contribute a little bit to who I am today, but also also to the kind of stuff I write. But I'll tell you, one of the things that sticks out in my mind is I want to say it was the Trilogy of Terror. It was the one with the little doll.
Oh, yes, the doll. Yes.
That terrifies me to this day.
It was well done. That segment is just like the pacing, the editing, the camera angles.
It's as if dolls aren't creepy enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I still can't watch that film. I just saw a little bit of it one time, and I was just like, nope, just can't do it.
Well, that thing is brutal. I mean, it just like slashes that poor lady up.
It's just the doll. It's just the doll is just super creepy and just yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just it's always kind of been one of those things, and I don't know. I was probably in third or fourth grade and picked up a book at the Scholastic Book Fair on how to make monster makeup. It was totally a monster makeup book for kids. And like that really got my imagination going. It had like how to make a paper mache Frankenstein head and all these different things with like, oh, if you put green makeup on and shine a red light, so if you have like the green light, you won't see the makeup, and then you put the red light on and makes your eyes all crazy. You put it around your eyes, and it had all this all this cool stuff. And so that was totally what I wanted to do. I like had this idea for years and years as a kid growing up, like the movie Effects. Loved that, and it was just so like that totally inspired me. I'm like, I want to make monsters, and I want to do make up crazy stuff, and I never pursued it. I don't know, and even 15, 20 years ago, if I wanted to get into it, it probably would have been inaccessible due to cost or not having the those kind of networking resources out here in on the East Coast.
That is true. Yeah, Scholastic had some pretty good books when I was in elementary school, especially like the scary stories to tell in the dark and stuff. Those ones are pretty neat. And there was like, oh, were the stories scary? Like, no, it was the pictures, it was the illustrations that were terrifying. I mean, those things were not appropriate for kids. Like, oh my god.
So did you get to see Annabelle? And what did you think of that movie?
I didn't see Annabelle. Although, what franchise was that from? Is that Insidious? Or
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring, right. No, I didn't see Annabelle, but I love The Conjuring. The Conjuring and both Insidious movies are like, those are definitely in my top I don't even know, 100. It's very, very hard for me to narrow down favorites. But yeah, the Conjuring and especially Insidious just make my skin crawl.
Oh,
And supernatural horror is really, anything that's
yeah.
dealing with that kind of, the afterlife or death or the occult. Makes my skin crawl, but at the same time, it's completely fascinating and is totally my wheelhouse. Like, I really enjoy writing supernatural horror.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really into the supernatural stuff too. It's like supernatural, the body horror, sci-fi kind of stuff. Those are like the two subgenres I really enjoy. But yeah,
Definitely.
like The Conjuring I was really impressed with that movie when it came out. Like I went to see it in the theater with my husband, and I was just like, what? Because there were some parts that scared me, and I was like, this is really nice, because I never know when it's like a big commercial horror film if I'm going to be scared by it or not. Are they going to go the jump scare route, or are they going to go the creepy, get under your skin mood thing, and then really start to ramp it up at the end? And that's what
Right.
The Conjuring did, and I loved it.
Yeah, I think it might have been The Conjuring that kind of used a little bit of both, but there was no false
Hmm.
jump scares. Like I think, like in Halloween, for instance, I think there was a scene where it's really quiet, and then like the sheriff comes up and puts his hand on somebody's shoulder, and the sound,
Yeah,
of the music, or whatever, it's like jump, but it's a false jump scare. It wasn't really something to be scared of. But
yeah,
Yeah.
in the Conjuring, I think it was The Conjuring, there was something standing outside the window of the nursery. So it was
yeah.
and so totally legitimate jump scare. Like it was scary. You know.
Because they did like the music box thing, and it looked like a circus tent with the swirl, which is like in all of that guy's movies. But it was like, okay, we're waiting for the music box to end, so you can see the little boy in the mirror, and it's just slowly winding down. I was like, and that was kind of a jump scare, but to me, it felt like it was legitimate. Like it belonged there, and it wasn't just there for a cheap, we're gonna startle you now because we have to have so many jump scares in this movie or whatever.
Right. Yeah, when that's the driving narrative, or if that's what makes the film quote scary,
Mhm.
that just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's it. That seems to be the major issues with a lot of like major, or big box office release horror movies, is that they rely too much on jump scares and not,
Mhm.
not really like getting the audience involved into it, really, and they just, just want to go for that jump scare instead of, the intellectual scare, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
Psychological horror, or the
Mm-hmm.
Right.
or the impending doom, and
Yeah.
creepiness and getting under your skin, and making you feel disturbed.
Yeah. And there's some good supernatural horror movies that do that, like like The Babadook and It Follows. There's just a couple of recent ones that came out, and those
I
are the
haven't
ones that
seen
really stick
either one
with
of
me.
those yet.
You haven't?
I have not seen either one of those.
Oh, I highly recommend them.
And there are so many horror films that I haven't seen. I mean, there's so much cinema period that I haven't seen. There's just
Yeah.
so many movies out there. It's so hard to, even with Netflix, you can just watch Netflix over and over all the time, and just there's just so much stuff to watch. There's so much good stuff. I mean, there's a ton of crap.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff too.
Well, that's the problem nowadays, is like trying to sort out the crap through the good stuff, because it seems like 90 to 95% of horror movies or sci-fi movies or whatever you have, seems to be crap, and then you got that like little small, like 5-10% that are actually good, and then of that, like 5-10%, you got like maybe another 1% that's really great, and maybe
Yeah.
might not be innovative, but does something somebody else might have done, but in a different way, that makes it unique in its own
Right.
perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most challenging things about horror. Whether you're trying to write horror, or just
Hmm.
whether even if you're trying to reboot something, it seems like that the most difficult thing is trying to do something that hasn't been done before. Or if
Right.
you are going to do something that's done before, finding an original way or an original spin to put on that.
Well, that's like with the reboots of like Friday the 13th and Halloween and all that. Is that especially with the like the Friday the 13th movie? I don't know if you've ever seen the reboot of that one, but with they just like totally went off of you know the known you know
It was
uh,
formulaic. It was
yeah.
highly formulaic. It was bland. And then they had, a character that everyone knows is in pop culture. Jason, everyone knows who Jason is when they
Hmm.
see him. And they had him be completely out of character and like kidnap somebody and hold them somewhere. And I'm like, wait a minute. All he does is kill people. He doesn't have enough, of a thought process to, oh yeah, I should kidnap this person and torture them. That's not what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
And I have to
weird.
admit, this is probably going to be a very unpopular opinion.
Okay.
I've never been into slasher movies. Never watched the Friday the 13th series because because like you said, he didn't do that kind of. There was no motivation. I'm
Right.
just like I don't get it. He just kills like that's
But
it.
yeah, he's like, well, I'm okay with Jason because he's a ghost, basically. He's a supernatural entity. He's like a force of nature.
Hmm.
And when it first started, he was out to get revenge for his mother and for what happened to him. But after along the line, they just kind of went off on a tangent and they got away from the essence of the character. But so I enjoyed it for that. But like most of the slasher films that were made in the 80s and everything, they based the plot around what new special effects they could figure out for a kill, and that's why to me it kind of was just like, wait, what? So you figure out how to kill someone this way and that way, and that's how your movie's gonna go? Like, where's your plot? So
Yeah, see, I did like the Nightmare on Elm Street series though.
yeah,
Yeah, both because there was an element of humor there, definitely more so as the series went on.
Hmm.
yeah,
But he had motivation,
yes,
right or wrong. He had motivation. There was motivation for him to kill, and
yep.
there was, just his character had motivation. There was a reason for the story to move forward, and for the characters, and all the characters had motivation. So it was, excuse me. So I could get into that, and
Yeah.
it's even though he's a serial killer, at least there's something relatable about him. You can understand why he's doing it, even if you think it's completely wrong or disgusting or disturbing, which it is. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
at least you understand why.
Hmm.
Well, the other thing too is I don't know if you've seen the newest Nightmare on Elm Street, but in the old ones they sort of like alluded to that he was a pedophile and and stuff like that. But in the new one, they just pretty much
They
just
came right
went.
out with it.
Yeah, they just pretty much came out and put it out in the open.
Yeah,
I think I did see the new one. I think I was watching Sci-Fi or one of these channels that it came
yeah.
on, and I was just like, "Oh, this looks different." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, that's not Rubber England.
No.
What?" And it was so bad.
It was,
I couldn't even finish watching it. I think I watched in horror, haha,
yeah.
for like 5 minutes, and I couldn't. It's another reboot that I'm just like, why?
Yeah,
Why?
they
Don't
handled that so poorly. Like Nancy did it. She was supposed to be the main character of the movie. She didn't show up until the second act of the film. She was not in the first part of the film at all. I was like, what?
Well,
And then they had Fred. They changed Freddy's motivation from getting revenge to just wanting to come back just to get Nancy, specifically Nancy, and that was it. Because he was her favorite. She was his favorite victim. But I was like, what? What? No, it doesn't work that way. Wait.
well, plus too is with Nancy in the first one. She was like a strong character
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and she wasn't that like weak. Oh, help me! I'm a girl, I'm a chick. Oh, help me!
Yeah.
Within this one, she, in the original, she was like kicking butt and stuff, but in the new one, she was, just they just went with, like her being like a helpless, defenseless chick.
Yeah, she was damsel in
I hate
distress.
those type of movies too.
Yeah, the whole damsel in distress main character with no agency to do anything is so annoying. It's like, why even tell the story then? Because it's not really about them, because they're not doing anything to influence the plot or anybody around them.
Mm-hmm.
So, Okay. Tell us a bit about Planchette. How long did it take you to film it and edit, and how you came up with the idea for it, and
Sure.
things like that?
All right. Well, Planchette, was a slasher film, and was really difficult for me to write because, as I mentioned, I didn't watch slasher films at all. And it was funny that one of the guys who worked on the film with me, he mentioned, he was like, "Oh, this really has a lot of similarities to Halloween." He's like, with the piano music in the beginning and this scene and that scene, and I'm like, "Oh." I had to go back and watch Halloween. I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay." You're right. I didn't even make that connection. And, but yeah, it was done for a local regional film challenge. So kind of like a 48-hour film challenge, except we had what was it? I think 2 months
Mhm.
or something like that. But there was milestones we had to meet. So within like the first 2 weeks, you had to have a script done, and then I think you had a month to shoot or have at least 1 minute of a single scene and upload that to them. And then from that time on, I think you had another 2 weeks. So it was basically 2 weeks to write the script, and then 3 or 4 weeks to shoot and everything else, and edit, and then the final film had to be excuse me. And then the final film was due, by like midnight on a certain day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually working on pre-production of another film at the time, and it's just one delay after another, and I was like, I got to do something else, and this came up, and I'm like, you know what? If I don't do this, I might not make another film this year, and I didn't want that to happen, so I didn't even have a cast, a crew, locations, anything. I just said, I'm going to sign up and I'll figure it out.
Wow.
So I ended up signing up, and there turned out to be a number of people who had also signed up but didn't have a team yet, so they were just kind of like, hey, here's they sent out to everybody, said, hey, all these people don't have teams yet, so if any of you want to connect.
Okay.
And so I met a couple of the people there that particular night, I think, when they had the kickoff, and we all went. We drew genres out of a hat, and we were all assigned a line of dialogue, a prop, and a character. So thankfully, I drew horror because there was things like slapstick comedy and romance, and I'm just like, no, I can't do that. So thank God I drew horror, and then we come to find out that our character was Mata Hari. The line of dialogue was, "Who the hell do you think you are, Mark Wahlberg?" And the prop was a bloody signet ring, and I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm like, no problem fitting a bloody signet ring into a horror film.
Right.
Good luck with your romance.
Yeah.
Or even slapstick comedy, maybe.
Maybe.
And then Mata Hari, and it was just like, shit. I'm like, how can I work a Mata Hari into? And I was like, I know. I'm like, it'll just be a Halloween costume. Like, that's the easiest thing I can do is just make, this woman dresses up as Mata Hari for a Halloween party. And so I ended up going that route. Wrote the script in about 2 weeks. Biggest challenge I had was mostly location and scheduling. Initially had one place lined up, and I basically wrote, once I had this place lined up, I kind of started writing, start writing the different scenes around the location that I was going to have. And literally, like, last minute, like a week before, lost that location. And and got on Facebook and started putting out a call for location. And thankfully, another local filmmaker offered up. He had a condo, a large open condo. It was recently what's the best way to put this?
Renovated?
Belonged to a recently deceased family member.
Oh, okay.
So it was, we wouldn't be disturbing anybody by being there for the day.
Okay.
And ended up renting that, and scheduling. When it came down to scheduling, because it was so last minute, and I hadn't gotten anybody ahead of time to say, hey, do you want to do this film challenge in a month? Everybody's schedule, it was either, I was unavailable, they were unavailable, actors, crew, all that sort of thing. We had a single day that worked for everyone.
Oh, jeez.
We had one day. We had a single Sunday in
Wow.
order to shoot everything. Maybe
Wow.
it was a Saturday. But yeah, one day, and ended up taking us 14 hours. I mean, we took breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long day.
Because part of it we had to wait for the sun to go down. We had these giant bay windows at one point in the living room, and the sun was coming in. And thankfully, I had grabbed a couple of giant, like 50-foot brown tarps, stuck them up on C-stands, and blocked out a bunch of the light so we could kind of shoot around that. But then there was a point where it's like, okay, well, now we got to do the outside scene, so we literally have to wait. And, but it was all right. We sent a couple PAs out to grab dinner, and everybody sat down. We all had a family style Thai food, and it was great. It was nice to just kind of stop and relax and take a break. But yeah, we didn't get out of there, or I didn't get out of there until probably 1 or 2 in the morning, because I just wanted to make sure everything was put back and there was
Right.
there was no blood on everything, because it was like white carpets, white furniture. I mean, I had like 6. I've got some behind the scenes photos. I had like 6 tarps, plastic tarps down all over the place. And even on top of that, I had like a moving blanket that I put in the actor's lap, and had like a roll of paper towel nearby. It was just like, okay, here's your Dixie cup of blood, and here's a paper towel. Just hold your hand out of frame.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Thankfully, the guy said he couldn't even tell we were there. So we put everything back where it went, and but oh my God, it was a challenge. I really put the challenge into film challenge in that case. But it was great. It was a great experience. Had some great people to work with, and oh my God! But at the end of the night, though, because I was doing the effects with the blood on the board, and with our guy, so I was literally like dumping blood into my hand and like throwing it on the board. And so I cleaned up at the end of the night, and I've got I didn't want to leave the trash there. They had giant barrels in the garage, and I'm like, I'm going to take everything with me. I don't want to, leave them to deal with anything.
Yeah.
So load everything in my trunk, and I've got 6 tarps all bunched up with a bunch of bloody paper towels in them. My hands are stained red, and I'm like, I don't even know. An hour from home, and I'm just like, oh my God, please don't get stopped. Don't get stopped.
Well, could you imagine those?
All I'm thinking is, I'm fucking covered in blood, and if the cop wants me to pop the trunk, holy shit, there's going to be a giant plastic bloody mess in the trunk. Oh yeah, I'm just making a film. What kind of film? Snuff film? Oh my God.
Nothing to see here. There's no body in the
It was like looking in my rearview mirror and making sure I was doing the speed limit the whole way home. 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't want to stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then they ended up taking about I think we ended up getting about 2 weeks to edit it, and that was and Michael J. Epstein jumped in and did the I mean, man, he was a huge help. He did he was director of photography, and he ended up scoring the film. He did the final edit. I kind of cut stuff together and said, here's how I kind of want it. And so he tightened it all up, did the color correction, did the score, did the sound. So really have him to thank for, the 2 wins with the best sound design, or outstanding sound design, and outstanding original score. But, a win's a win, and, that was, that was pretty cool. So we're trending in the right direction. Nomination on the first one, a couple wins on the second one.
Yeah.
Maybe the third one can be just, best picture.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Because I would honestly rather get an award for the whole film rather than like best director or something like that, because so many people, contribute to it. It's not just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that kind of brings up an interesting point, that filmmakers often have to work with what they have, and if they really want to make the movie, you have to really work hard to get everyone together and to use the space that's available to you, and to figure out how to make things work and things like that. And I don't think most people really realize that kind of effort is going on behind the scenes in a lot of these things.
Yeah, definitely with independent film. And I mean that's really the way that's the way you got to do it unless you're having a wildly successful Kickstarter campaign.
Right.
It's you really have to and it's best to work with what you've got. And it's if you can rent a place. I mean, we ended up renting this place. I think we got it for $100 or $150 for the day,
That's not bad.
which wasn't bad. I think he wanted 200, but he's kind of doing a favor as a fellow filmmaker.
Right.
And $100 here, $100 for food, and props and everything else. So it adds up quick. But I kind of feel bad, but everyone worked for free, including the everybody, just literally everybody on the crew. But that was part of the that was actually a stipulation of the challenge.
Oh.
Is that everyone had to be volunteer.
Okay.
So I would have still liked to have paid people, because it was it was grueling, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that just means that people are doing it because they had passion for the project. And you got to respect that.
And that's very reflective here in New England, is that you will not find more passionate people and people who will work on a film for the love of the film. Mm-hmm. I know exposure doesn't pay the bills and everything, but if there's a project that I'm really excited about, I will offer to help, just because I want to be part of it and I want to help bring
absolutely.
it to life.
Yeah. And everyone starts somewhere, and sometimes doing volunteer work on these things can help people later on get funding or get a job working on a film that's paid or whatever. So the possibility is there. I'm not advocating everyone just work for exposure or anything, but
right. No, I think starting out, you have to be willing to work for free, at least as a PA. Work as a PA, and you can not only get experience, on set. You can start networking, and meeting different, meeting different filmmakers and different actors, and opportunities can come from that. And you can learn how to wrap wires, so I don't have to break your fingers.
Oh boy. That sounds like there's a story there.
No, it's just every time I cringe whenever I see anybody. They just take a hose, or they take a extension cord, and they start going like elbow to wrist. It's just like, oh God, what are you doing?
And why is that a bad idea?
Your cables will just get all twisted. There's a right way to wrap your cables, so that basically you can just take the Velcro tie off, and you could roll it down. You could roll it down the room, and it'll just unravel. But if you start twisting it, shoulder, elbow over wrist, it's just it gets twisted up, and then that's how you end up with a big tangled mess.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have some experience with that.
I have, yes. And it brings to mind nightmares about the Christmas lights coming off the tree, and then trying to put them on the next year. And it's just this big ball. It's like, okay, well, how do I get this unraveled now? Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought a pre-lit tree. Pre-lit fake tree.
Yes.
Pull the branches down, plug it in.
Yeah. Okay. What is Dark Roast, and how did you come up with the idea for the short film?
Dark Roast is a supernatural horror comedy, or dark comedy, or depends if you're a horror snob and don't want to call it a horror, but it's sidetrack to that. I'm really a fan of implied horror.
Mm-hmm.
Like going back to Planchette, we don't actually see anything happen. You see some blood, and then you see David's kidney, but you don't actually see anybody actually taking a knife to the eye or anything like that. Right. If you think like Hitchcock, think like Psycho. You see the knife, and then you see blood splatter on the shower curtain.
Yeah.
You don't
And then
actually
your
have to see it.
yeah, your mind
My
fills in
thought
the
with
blank.
that
Yeah.
was
Well,
that
yeah, there's some movies where you like see the knife, you see the like killer motioning towards the victim,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden the camera pans away, and then all of a sudden you just see like the blood squirting and stuff like that, but you don't actually see the killer actually like
Yeah.
slitting the victim's throat or whatnot.
yeah, yeah, and not only is that cheaper, so
Right.
you're making your first horror film, pay attention here.
Right.
It's a cheaper way to go about it. And my thoughts with implied horror is all I have to do is plant the seed.
Mhm.
Anything I can show you, anything you can come up with in your mind will be far worse than anything I could show you.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get a glimpse of something that's about to happen, and then your mind goes, "Oh God!" and just
Yeah.
runs with it.
That brings to mind the movie Alien and how they don't really show the xenomorph to the very, very end, like
Oh
the
yeah,
whole
the
thing.
original Alien, that was totally a haunted house
Yeah.
film.
Oh
That was
yeah,
so
it's haunted
good.
house, yeah, haunted house film in space, totally. I love that movie so much. But yeah, it's just like if to me, I feel if that movie were to just be made right now, um, they would show the alien within the first 10 minutes of the movie,
Probably, yeah.
and and it would be bright, full color, just right there, either in CGI or a combination of that and live action. But they would show it right away. They would just blow their wad right there, and oh, here you go. It's like, but that's not scary, Let me,
Just like
think about it. Yeah,
just like the first Judge Dredd movie, it was like, oh, it's Slice Stallone.
yeah,
He's never taken off his mask. Slice
Yeah.
Stallone comes off in the first 5 minutes.
which
Mhm.
thankfully they didn't do when they did Dread. Was that a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Carl Urban. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that was
Oh,
fantastic.
he was perfect in that role. He
Well,
did
that
the frowny face and everything, just
Right.
right.
The dour look on his face.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, that was a great film. That was the Dredd movie we deserved.
Yeah. And it was actually more true to the comics and stuff than the
Yes.
Stallone one was.
Yeah, the Stallone one was very happy.
Yeah,
For a Dread movie, that was a very happy film.
yeah.
And I'm just like, it caused like a dissonance for me. I was like, this is not Judge Dredd. This is a different script, and then they slap the names on there, and then say, here you go, here's the movie, and it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
But with the new one, I mean, it definitely feels like a futuristic dystopia where everything's overcrowded and people are living in these giant, housing structures, and like they got that right. So, yeah, good time.
You're listening to Carnage Cove. We've taken a turn into comic book territory.
Comic books. There's actually some
bring
pretty
it back
good.
around.
We take turns everywhere.
Yeah. And we drive in a big circle. We don't get anywhere.
So Dark Rose. Dark Rose was my first short film.
Uh,
I wrote it in probably over the course of a month, and at the time I was watching a lot. I was like binge watching Supernatural, the CW show.
Mhm.
I think I discovered it. I literally just discovered it like a couple of years ago, and I was binge watching it, and it was so fantastic. It just struck the right chord with the primetime horror. Reminded me of the '80s with the show Werewolf and The Hitcher and Ray Bradbury Theater and all those fantastic things that I grew up with. Tales from the Dark Side. But I'm digressing again. So I had all that was in the front of my mind, and I also really, really enjoyed this short-lived show on Showtime called Dead Like Me.
oh
So there was
yeah.
a lot of inspiration from Dead Like Me, and I almost did a gag with a Post-it note to have like Sean's name on it, just as a little nod to see if I could pick that up.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of that going on, and it's just it just struck the right chord because that's I really like. That's probably one of my favorite genres is comedy horror.
Mhm.
So like God, let me think. Like Army of Darkness,
Yes.
Gremlins,
Yeah.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, yes.
Or even Evil Dead 2 when it's just like completely
Yeah,
over the top and
yeah.
absurd.
Yeah.
So so yeah, I just it struck me. I was watching TV, and I think it was actually from a commercial. I had heard a commercial for a mobs. I think it was like a new mobster show that was coming on, and I thought the guy, I misheard the guy, or I thought I misheard the guy. I'm like, did he just say, I feel like I've been stepping over corpses, or there's been nothing but corpses since you showed up? And I was like, that's funny. Like that would be funny if that was like a Grim Reaper talking and a guy having a conversation, and the guy's like, "There's been nothing but corpses since you showed up."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
I ended up when I initially wrote it, I like wrote it verbatim, and then I realized that he did say it, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to like completely lift that line, so I changed it a little bit, but that was the initial spark. And then it just went from there, and I passed it around to a few people, started getting iterations, and my co-producer Andrea Willannon had read the script, and she was just like, "Oh my God, this is great! I'll totally I'll totally help you with this." So she helped me secure the cinematographer, and sound was her boyfriend at the time actually, and she found a couple of actors for me. And thankfully, I worked a couple blocks from the place that we shot it, and so I'd gotten to know everybody over the course of like 2 or 3 years. And I showed up, and I'm like, "Hey Mo, I want to shoot a movie here. Sit up." He was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever you want." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, why not?"
nice.
And I came in, and we got a little bit of ambient sound when there were still customers there, and then they were closing down and cleaning the place, and we were shooting. And I was like, "Hey, we're gonna take off, so just lock up when you're done." I'm like, "Really? All right." I was like, "That was amazing." And he was like, "Do you need to come back next weekend too?" I'm like, "No, it's it, man. It's just one day."
We're good.
So that was only like a 6-hour shoot, which is still crazy to me that it took 6 hours to get 2.5 minutes of film.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it just just really simple conversation, and it really it's kind of an intersection of like where my brain it's like a cross section of my brain where comedy and horror meets.
Yeah.
And like really it's
Yeah.
really kind of definitive of my style, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I think the reason it did so well, I think aside from the nomination, I think at last count at 14 or 15 official selections globally, and I think the reason it did so well is because it was really a passion project. Like I was really like, I was just like, I love this. This is great, and other people were like excited about it, so I knew there was something good there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been great. I'm still I still show it at different events and screenings, and I've still got it in a couple of film festivals, even though it's actually available online. Shh.
Don't tell anybody. You can find it.
Sometimes that disqualifies it, which is kind of strange, even though it's a short. It's usually feature films that have the don't show it online, or they have some kind of premiere requirement.
That's weird.
So this has to do with exclusivity, that they want to be able to say we had it first.
I could see Dark Roast being like a mini series or something like that. I could see that it could go that. I don't think it would have enough to really do a full series, TV series.
Right.
I think it could actually stand up to like a mini series, like 3 or 4 episodes, something like that.
I actually started writing something similar called Loose and Grim. It's about the devil and the Grim Reaper. And basically, the Grim Reaper's depressed, so she calls up the devil, and they go and hang out, and all hell starts breaking loose. And I haven't decided if I want to turn it into a web series or if I want to make it into like a 20-30-minute short. I've been told web series is probably the way to go. Just because the scenes are kind of short and it make nice little bite-sized episodes. But that's just something that's been kind of sitting on the back burner for a while.
Yeah, because that kind of thing could go on for quite a while. Just quips back and forth and little vignettes and stuff. Like, makes me think of like the comic strip kind of setup where there's just a little gag at the end where
right.
This is what's going on this week, and Wow, wow. Wow.
Definitely.
I think that would the pair of those two would work really well for that kind of thing. And just the
Yeah.
idea is really funny to me. So
Yeah. Well, you could actually have it where the devil and God and the Grim Reaper, because Grim Reaper is basically a neutral character.
Yeah.
Where God and devil are sitting there, at in a coffee shop having a coffee or whatever, and the Grim Reaper walks in and saying, "Oh, I'm having a bad day," or whatever. And God's like, "Well, what's wrong?" And devil chimes in or something to that effect, and just have it like that.
What's funny too is I've written quite a bit of it. There's still a little chunk in the middle of the story that's kind of missing. But I'll get inspired every once in a while, and I'll start writing down something. I'm just like, oh, that's funny. I'll kind of scratch it down, and I realized that it had like all these little segments of different stories.
mm-hmm.
And I looked at them all one day, and I'm like, this all fits. I'm like, I've been writing the same story in pieces. Like, these all fit together. I'm like, I've got this whole short that I was writing about a funeral home and things going completely awry, and it was totally based on conversations with my father, who had all these ideas about when he died that he wanted me to do. He would joke about throwing him over the fence at the factory that he used to work. Or, if we had a funeral that he wanted to have like where the pillow where you kneel down, that it would have like an actuator and make him sit up in the coffin, and something would start playing. I mean, yeah, it's hereditary. So I was like, oh, that's a great scene. So like the devil can be like making all this stuff going on. So like he can be reanimating the corpse, and all hell's breaking loose at the funeral home, and
be a trickster and really stir things up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what's the big deal? It's a dead body, whatever. They're not going to complain. They're dead. Yeah.
What do you think about forced humor in movies, especially like horror movies? Because there's a lot of movies that there's points where the humor fits.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other points where it's just like, why did the director or writer put that there? It's stupid, and it seems like it's forced.
I've seen full feature comedy films that feel forced.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I think part of it could definitely be, it's either forced, or they're trying to. The writer was struggling with the scene and couldn't figure out how to make something transition. So like, oh, let's just put something stupid here that, distracts the character so something else can happen.
Yeah. Insert dick joke here. Okay, and go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just dick and fart jokes just aren't my. That's just not my bag at all. So, sorry, Judd Apatow, but I really hate your movies.
It's okay. I feel the same way. It's lowbrow humor, and it really doesn't take.
It's lowbrow, and it's usually sexist.
Yeah.
Well, the lowbrow humor sort of like worked in Army of Darkness and stuff like that.
That was more slapstick, though. Like, there's a difference between slapstick and lowbrow, right? Yeah.
I kind of think a little bit like in the first part, where it could be considered like slapstick, but it wasn't like over the top. It fit the situation. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, you have like Jason like sitting there slashing at people and killing people, and then all of a sudden you have the Three Stooges walk in and they're doing their thing. The Three Stooges don't fit, but in the Army of Darkness it fit. The kind of like, it wasn't like totally slapstick, but you could see it like if the director or writers or whatever had where they could have like overdid it, and went to like the silly extreme, but they kind of curtailed it back a little bit, and it didn't take it that far.
Yeah, there was a fine line there, and they managed to not go past it with Army of Darkness, but they could have very easily just pushed the envelope too much with all that stuff.
Mhm.
They managed to.
Yeah,
But
it was definitely on the edge because Evil Dead
yeah,
2 was funny
yeah,
because when you can use when 1 gallon of blood will work, he'll use like 100 gallons of blood.
right.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like that's a good gag. I like that when it's ridiculous,
Hmm.
but it's scary, but it's funny. It's not
Right.
like it's just over the top.
Yeah.
Very true. Um, let's see, where are we at? We're not really following the order of questions, but whatever. Um,
That's all right. I didn't write down answers anyways. I was going to be, oh, let me try and script something out so I'm not all over the place. But
yeah, it's okay. Um, you're now making some short video logs, some vlogs on or vlogs on the YouTube, right?
yep.
What are they, and what is the name of your YouTube channel? And tell us a bit about that.
I don't really have a name for my YouTube channel. It's just Pete Yagmin.
Okay.
If you search on YouTube for me,
Yeah.
Yagmin, you can find my vlogs. I've been considering vlogging for quite some time, and finally, I just had these production diaries that I was recording on my phone for a documentary that I'm working on. I'm working on a tattoo documentary. One of those instances where I'm trying to make an opportunity for myself while I'm waiting on other things to happen. I want to stay creative and keep doing things.
Yeah.
So that's another reason behind the vlogs. Also, is keep me engaged and editing every day or
Mm-hmm.
every couple of days so I can try and hone those skills. And I've definitely it's already taught me quite a bit of stuff. So the focus of my vlogs for the first couple of days were talking about some of the challenges actually with with filming the documentary, and it's definitely had its ups and downs between not having I don't want to say not having the right equipment, but not understanding the capabilities
Mm-hmm.
of the first camera I initially went up there with.
Okay.
And, I covered a whole section on that about this Canon HG10 that I have. It supposedly has cinema mode, and it says 24p, and it really doesn't. So it shoots in 29.97.
Okay.
So I was shooting that and shooting the Blackmagic, and I was shooting the Blackmagic at 24, and then you bring them into Premiere, and the frame rates are different.
Right.
Mhm.
So I basically cover some of the challenges and talk a little bit about filmmaking and about things to avoid and the mistakes I've made, and try to help other filmmakers not make the same mistakes, and beyond that, I'm trying to use it to talk about other film projects that I'm working on, and try not to be too soapboxy about anything. I try to keep it light.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. Some people, no matter what, they'll always think that you're up there preaching and being soapboxy.
Yeah, that's probably true. I try to stay on topic. A filmmaker friend of mine actually asked. He says, "Oh, so he's starting a vlog." He's like, "Is it going to be all about film, or is it going to be a mixed bag?" And I'm like, "Probably going to be primarily about film because I don't share my personal life. I'm actually a very private person, so it's kind of ironic that I'm making videos about what I'm doing and putting them on the internet."
Well, there's a difference between talking about your home life and talking about business and work and things like that. So, that's probably, why you're comfortable doing that, because you're not really giving away a lot about yourself. You're just talking about your work and your experiences there. So.
Yeah. That's true. And so I've been thinking about it for a while, just because there's, I really wanted to. I converted my website to a blog a while back because I like to write. And I used to write a lot, and I figured, if I turn it over into like a WordPress site or something, that'll just make it easier. I can just write and not have to worry about formatting or anything. And I haven't written anything in like 2 months. So I said, maybe video's easier. And
one or the other. They both take up time. They both have their own challenges, and you need to edit both of them. So, really.
I mean, I initially started doing, before I started vlogging, I was trying to do a series of 30-second 30-second experimental films. I had just gotten my Blackmagic Pocket, so I just wanted to get familiar with it and try different things out. And I challenged myself to do 30 films in 30 days. So I was trying to do a 30-second film for 30 days every day. And I got up to day 15. I got up to day 15, and it was difficult because there's some of them are great, some of them are just weird, and some of them are, you know, take it or leave it. But some, you know, there's some that I'm like, man, I really wish I'd taken the time to color correct it. But trying to think of something every day.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily intended to be narrative. There was days that you know, I didn't have time, and I'd be at work, and I'd just walk around with my camera on my phone. And there's like 2 or 3 films that are done entirely on my phone because they're, you know, there's no dialogue to them. They're just, you know, they're experimental.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know, when your daily grind is literally just kind of you know, going to work and coming back home, and you know, not a whole lot of exploring. And you know, I don't live in a city, so I don't just like step out my door and, you know, it's New York.
Right.
There's not always something going on, so I found it challenging to try and find something every single day. And but it was good. It was interesting, and actually another vlogger inspired me to do that. You probably heard of Casey Neistat.
No.
You should definitely check him out. If you've watched my blog, if you even like remotely like my stuff, you'll love his stuff.
Okay.
Although he does do a lot more personal.
Okay.
But he did this great Aladdin video with another YouTube blogger or YouTuber, where they took an electric skateboard and they made a red carpet and dressed this guy Jesse up like Aladdin. And when it was around New York City, it was fantastic. It was a Halloween prank. And that was how I found Casey. And then I started watching his videos, and like I watched the behind the scenes on it. And he was showing like how he made it, and like I love that stuff. Like Adam Savage, I love Adam Savage because he's so enthusiastic about it and building stuff and making stuff. And so Casey has that same kind of enthusiasm and about, you know, making stuff and making stuff every day. And so he actually does a daily vlog, and I was like, well, shit, if this guy can do like an 8-minute vlog every day, I can sure in hell find 30 seconds worth of something to make a film about every day.
Right.
Yeah, well, I don't live in New York City like him, so it's not necessarily always that interesting. But it was great. I'm really glad I did it, and you know, inspired other people. They were just like, this is great. I love this idea. And I'm like, well, I want to do a season 2, you know, so if I can find like 5 directors or 6 other directors that want to do a 30-second film every day, and we'd all just pick one day of the week.
That's a really good idea.
That way we at least get give ourselves a couple days to be able to edit and color correct and you know, make it decent.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just in one of his vlogs. He said, you know, I really miss. He started his vlog because he missed making films.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm so busy that I don't get an opportunity to make a film or make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, I'm like, really? I'm like, I haven't made a movie in a while, and I'm really getting creatively stunted. I really want to do something. So I was just like, I'm just going to do a 30-second film. I'm just going to make a 30-second film. And it's incredibly challenging, not only trying to figure out how to make 30 seconds worth of content interesting, but trying to limit yourself to 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was more challenging than I would have expected.
Yeah.
That sounds about right, actually. It's harder to condense a visual story down into 30 seconds than it would be 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me.
You know, but I was taking the route that these were experimental, so it didn't necessarily have to be narrative.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Whether you're doing abstract or not, it's still kind of telling. To me, anyway, it's still telling a story, even if it's utterly bizarre and you can't really comprehend it. There's still something there that, you know, sticks with you that you remember. So.
Yeah, most definitely. And so, you know, I would totally. And here's what's funny though is even with Dark Horse and Plant Chat, I've found more success with those by trimming them down into even shorter films than they are. Dark Horse actually, I found it on Film Freeway. Somebody was doing a contest for a web series. It was 60 last-minute twists. That was it. and the films had to be cut down to 60 seconds.
Uh-huh.
And somehow it was either cut down to 60 seconds or at maybe a minute 30 if you're including credits or something like that. So I chopped down Dark Roast, which was really, really difficult because it's already a short film, and I had to cut out some dialogue and cut out a couple of scenes. And when I did, it got really dark, really fast. Like instead of being about a reaper, it ended up being a story about a poisoner.
Oh.
Because it took the supernatural element out of it. So she's sitting there with this guy having a coffee, and all of a sudden he drops dead. And and there was no, and I had to cut out all the dialogue about everybody's been dropping dead. So it didn't have all that explanation, and became a completely different film. I got chosen as episode 8 of Last Minute Twists out of 500 other entries.
Wow, that's good.
That was pretty cool. I was really proud about that. And then with Planchette, 14 hours, we shot a lot of footage.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually able to. There's another film. It's an anthology that I found either on Twitter or Facebook by Tony Newton called 60 Seconds to Die.
Oh,
and he put out a call for short films. So I took a re-edit of Planchette and cut it down to 60 seconds, and I called it Zoso.
Okay.
And Zoso or Zozo, depending on who you ask, is supposed to be a spirit of the Ouija board.
Yeah, like a demon or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it just keeps repeating like Zo or Z.
Yeah, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they actually had like a Ghost Adventures episode where they went to the house for someone Zozo, and they were doing the board thing, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It's supposed to attach to people very quickly, possess them, make them do really bad things.
So I trimmed it down. I trimmed that down and sent that to Tony, and he was like, "This is great." So,
cool.
now that's going to be part of the 60 Seconds to Die, Volume 1, and I'm slated to do Volume 2.
Well, congratulations. That's really cool.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
So we sort of touched on it earlier, but what is your favorite movie and why?
Your favorite horror movie or favorite movie?
Yeah.
Either one works.
Oh God, favorite horror movie. That's really, really, really tough. Like I said, I think I've got like a top 100 or something like that. It might be easier for me to give you like what's my favorite per subgenre.
What is? Do you have a horror movie that you can watch like every day and not get tired of it? Like one that you love that much?
That's a good question.
Because for me, like John Carpenter's The Thing, I could watch that every day.
Oh, that's a good film.
I love that movie.
That's definitely top 10.
Yeah, that's my number one. That one right there. Because you have the creatures, you have the monsters, which aged very well, like all the practical effects they did, and all the ingenuity that behind just making the puppets and stuff. And then you have the atmospheric, paranoia flick, and it's claustrophobic, and they're in the middle of nowhere, so there's no help to get. I mean, it has all of these elements that just, I have not seen anything that has been able to even replicate that at all. Like
I've actually heard that The Hateful Eight is an homage to The Thing.
I've heard that too, and I know that they used some of Ennio Morricone's scores that he wrote for The Thing that they didn't use in The Hateful Eight. So, yeah. I was like, all right, I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, so I don't know. I've heard good and bad things about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so.
So let me think. Favorite horror movies. Let's see. Supernatural route. I would say Poltergeist is probably my number one.
I'm assuming that it's the original, not the reboot.
No, definitely not the reboot. The original Poltergeist films. Insidious. It just makes my skin crawl. The Conjuring. In terms of like say sci-fi horror. Oh my God, I'm blanking out. Event Horizon. That's number one. That's like number one sci-fi horror, which is tough because I love aliens, but
Yeah.
And it's Poltergeist and movie I could watch all the time. Probably Gremlins.
Okay.
I mean, just love Gremlins. That's Just it's got the monsters and it's got the comedy, and
It
it's
does.
it's gross and funny, and that's definitely an everyday movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found out that they're going to make a third movie. They were going to reboot it and they canned it. And they
Yeah,
decided they're making a third movie, and the guy that played Billy Peltzer is going to be in it again. So they
yeah.
got some of the
I heard
original
it's gonna
cast.
be a prequel,
Huh.
Hmm.
I
so I
don't
don't know
know.
how Billy's gonna fit into that,
Yeah,
but
the stuff, I don't know if they've changed it since, because I read a post like a couple weeks ago about it. I don't know if that's changed since then or not, but they definitely talk about bringing the characters back, and they're going to play older people, in that universe kind of thing, dealing with gremlins again and that
hmm.
kind of stuff. But I don't know. I'll have to look into that, I guess. These things kind of change and mutate over time as they start working on it anyway. So who can
Right.
say?
Fun
Are
side
you?
note: I worked on I had a small part in a local production called Scary Little Fuckers, which was an homage to Gremlins and Critters.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got to be attacked by a fuka, so that was a hell of a lot of fun.
Fuka?
Yeah, that was the name of the monster.
Oh, okay. It's like
The
I don't think
fuka's
I've
like,
heard of that. Okay. Speaking of playing in a movie, if you could play a monster in a movie, what kind of monster would you want to be?
werewolf.
Why would you want to be a werewolf?
Um, I don't know. Maybe it's maybe part of it's my affinity for wolves, and,
Mhm.
and another part is just I just always loved the werewolf films and like American Werewolf in London. There you go. There's
Oh, classic, yeah.
another top top 10 right there.
Mhm.
American Werewolf in London. The oh my God, you ever see the series Werewolf on USA back in the 80s?
Yes. Oh,
Wow,
that was brilliant.
that was such a great series. I loved that. It terrified me, but I
It was
loved it.
written. Yeah, it was written well. The angle shots they did of all the scary parts were just perfect. It was spot on.
Yeah,
It took me forever. I actually found it on YouTube, like the whole
nice.
thing. I was like, oh, but yeah, if they could put that out on Blu-ray, that would be wonderful.
Right, and the effects, and that
Yeah,
was one of those, especially for being like a weekly show,
yeah,
being a television show, and the effects, it was incredible.
it was.
You know?
They managed to do a lot of practical effects with the limited budget that they were given to do the show with, and
Yeah,
that's compared to some of the weekly shows that come out now that are so heavy in CGI because it's quote unquote cheaper. I'm like, no, you're not thinking about it the right way, I guess, because it's possible to do it.
I don't know if it's cheaper. It's definitely faster.
Some
Um,
people say it's cheaper, and then some people say I know it's faster because they're just plunking into the program and off you go, but it doesn't necessarily make it better.
well, I don't know I don't know if you want to talk about CGI versus practical. I don't know if you know in John Wick when the
Yeah.
dog went outside and did his business on the lawn. That was the dog poo was CGI,
What?
and I think it was something like $3,000 or $4,000. Like it took like countless hours to CGI poop. When you could have just like I don't even know gotten a can of dog food, add a little food coloring or some gravy master to it, and like squeezed it
Yeah.
out with a pastry bag.
Seriously, that much? Yeah, you could do like get the bouillon that's in the gelatin form because I know you can get it at the grocery store. I've seen it, and just like you said, put in plastic bags, squeeze it out, and make a little pile. There you go. Wow,
Yeah, I can't believe that was somebody's job. I think it might be the only CGI in the film, but I can't believe that was somebody's job.
that is insane. I mean, to me, it's hysterical too because it's poo. Like
Yeah,
dogs
it's the
do
most
that every
absurd
day.
thing ever.
Yeah, you can just go down the street, and, get a pooper scooper, and you
You talk
know.
about things being forced in a movie.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah,
What? How did the dog taking a poop in the yard push the story forward?
it didn't.
And
It didn't move the story forward at all.
It was
So
a scene. There you go. That was your your fart joke in that movie.
mhm.
right,
Had to have the poop
exactly.
gag.
Yeah, so it's with the poo.
Is there like one? Is there like one movie where you just like were watching it and then was just like, questioning what the director or writer, why the director or writer did this.
Yeah, like with the plot
But
and stuff.
yeah, like with John Wick and the dog poop. Like,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
there like one movie that you like were just consistently like, why in the hell did the director or writer do this? I would have done it differently. If, is there like one movie that you can like pick out that
I think that about every Judd Apatow movie. Why did you do that? But that's about the whole film. God, that's a good question. I'm sure there's been plenty. I know I do it all the time, even watching TV.
Oh yeah.
Watch TV, watching a movie, and it's just like, what? Well, why? That doesn't fit the story. It doesn't move the story forward. Like, what is the,
I
or
do
maybe
that
it's
all
the
the time.
delivery.
Yeah.
What's it?
And so I do that all the time too. Like that's my same thought process. Like this doesn't belong in the story. Why is that there? Why are you going in that direction? That doesn't make any sense. People don't logically do these things. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sure there's something. I'm sure there's one movie out there that I'm just like, oh my God, it's just so bad.
Well, like for instance, since you brought up John Wick, the kick the dog moment where they kill the dog that his dead wife got for him.
Right.
To me, it seems wholly excessive.
Oh yeah.
Just like, okay, so that's what gets John Wick to go back into killing is that they kill his dog, and I'm just like, what? Really? Like that's the whole motivation. That's what gives them agency. I just don't. I don't even like. I can't wrap my head around that one at all. It's just like with the dog poo. Like, why would you do that? That's way too much money on dog poo. You can get it for free.
Feed the dog and just take it out for a poo.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's definitely an excessive response to someone killing your dog. Maybe. But maybe it was just that was just like the thing that just pushed him over the edge. It was just like he snapped, like he just lost his wife, and now this guy comes and kills the dog. And, the only thing that he had left of his wife, and so it was just like it just totally broke his mind.
Broke the camel's back.
Yeah. Okay. I can sort of see that, but while I was watching it, I was like, come on, like you could come up with a better thing for him to go break up the whole criminal underworld in that city, than that.
Well, I mean,
it didn't bother me that much. I love that.
Well, what kind of put it over the top for me was, them beating the dog. They should just like, if they were going to do it,
Right.
have them pull out a gun and shoot the dog.
Well, they had to show how bad those people were, right? So they had to kick the dog.
So
that whole bit was really, the whole dog bit was really excessive. Like, it's one of those things that you don't do in films. Is you don't kill children, you don't kill animals.
No.
Those are like big taboos.
Well,
they're
it almost
innocent.
felt like, they were like, okay, we want this movie to be like an hour and 30 minutes long, and we're like 2 minutes short, so let's lengthen the dog killing part so we can reach that hour and 40 minutes.
Maybe.
Or whatever, how long the movie was.
Gotta get that 2 minutes of CGI dog poop.
Yeah, we need 2 minutes of that, just in slow motion. Like stuff coming out of the ice cream scoop thing, and you just, you pull the lever, and it just... Oh, sorry, I went that far. I went too far. Okay, moving on.
You're listening to Fecal Cove.
What is one important lesson, or 2 important lessons, whatever, that you have learned about filmmaking, and why is it valuable to you, and how do you think it will help other people that are wanting to get into that process?
I think one thing I've learned is film is film is just like anything else, where just because you can doesn't mean you should. So when it comes to film, I think just because you can do it by yourself doesn't mean you should. I think you should at least, if if you want to do a short film or any type of film, at least have one other person working as crew with you. Because trying to do and that's part of the setbacks with the documentaries. I'm trying to run the audio, and I'm trying to do the video, and I'm trying to keep track of the questions that I'm asking the guys. So it was like, in one point, I forgot to turn the audio back on for one of the interviews. And the scratch audio wasn't that bad, but I'd probably have to do a lot of processing to it to kind of bring the level up. And so don't go at it alone. And in that same sense, don't think you're king shit and know it all. That's not necessarily something I learned. That's just advice, because
M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan, ding dong.
Yes. Yeah, there are some people that definitely get egos early on in that process.
And I mean, a little bit of ego is okay, because you want to be able, you want to have confidence in what you're doing.
Exactly.
And be able to project that confidence onto your cast and crew, but you don't want to be an ass.
Yeah, there's that line that you don't want to cross.
Good ideas come from everywhere. And letting people have input on your film will yield the best product, because if everyone's invested in it, then everyone wants it to be the best it can be.
Right.
It's like going to a job and your boss not trusting you to do your job.
Right.
Yeah. It's I have no benefit to do my job badly.
Right.
Trust that I'm doing something for the better of the company, because the company does better and I do better. I keep my job, hopefully get a bonus or a raise. In this case, make a better film.
Yeah.
And part of my directing style is to let the actors, really bring whatever they want, put themselves into it. So I always try to say, if you read something and you're stumbling over a word, it's okay to change it, or if something doesn't feel right, if that's not how you would talk, then feel free to change it, unless it's changing the meaning of a word or a meaning of something we're talking about. Just own it, and that allows for really natural performances. So, like in Dark Roast, you don't feel like you're necessarily watching a movie. You feel like you're sitting in the cafe, overhearing a conversation.
Yeah.
Like you're an observer, So it's a little, I think that's, I really strive for that. I would say the shorter the better. The shorter the better, the simpler the better. If you can do one location, do one location, one scene. Short films program very, very well, especially if they're nice and short, because they if they have a couple of minutes before and after a feature. If you've got like a 2-3 minute film, that could fit great. For instance, Dark Roast was programmed in front of Life After Beth at a film festival, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so it allowed them to bump up that block, so it was good, a full 2-hour block or something like that. So I definitely recommend that, and I think those are probably the most valuable things off the top of my head.
Yeah, I agree with the whole collaborative process of filmmaker and everything like that, because like you said, the more minds that are working and having input, whether it's used or not, gets everyone thinking and everyone on the same page as to what the final product is going to be that you're working on. So it's really good advice.
Yeah, I like to let the actors do what they do their thing, do it their way, read it their way or whatever. And if I want something different, I'll give them that direction.
Right.
But otherwise, it's like I want you to own it. I want you to feel like you're part of this and that you're part of the creative process. And so because I want your best, and I want it to be natural and not feel forced or wooden.
Yeah.
So do you think that you're going to keep to just doing short films, or would you eventually to do a full feature,
I'm definitely
2-hour movie?
I definitely want to do a feature. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. Actually, is to at least write a feature.
Okay.
Actually, and probably not necessarily a horror. I've had the idea to do a sci-fi, kind of a cyberpunk, throwback to the '80s. Think like I don't know, think like a Shadowrun, but not necessarily with the magic.
Right. And I think that now is a really good time to do that. There's kind of a resurgence in popularity in that cyberpunk kind of late 70s, early 80s, technology and that kind of stuff. So I wish
Tech and low life.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Um, okay, so do you have any projects coming up that people should be looking out for, or?
Well, I mentioned 60 Seconds to Die, so that's coming out.
Right.
I have this. I already wrote the screenplay for the second one, for 60 Seconds to Die 2.
Mm-hmm.
Still up in the air about the title. Right now, it's called Lift, and it's going to take place in an elevator.
Okay.
And oh yes, there will be blood.
There's blood everywhere.
But outside of that, I've been trying to one of the projects that's been set back so many times is Whispers of Carcosa, and that's been I think we're going on year 2 of trying to get it off the ground, because I think I'm gonna have to make a concession and not wait for snow or not try to do it in the snow, because the first year I tried doing it, which would have been like last winter. Waited for snow, and then we just got dumped. We got completely hammered up here in the Northeast. It was just all the snow you could never want.
Yeah.
And then this year, we finally got snow. We got a reasonable amount of snow, so it's enough to cover the ground. But then the availability with the actors just wasn't there.
Oh.
So it's been like, and because I've been waiting for the snow, so it's like so last minute. It's like, hey, David, there's snow on the ground. Are you available this weekend?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, maybe I'll just forget the snow and just schedule it on a date that works for everybody and just get it done. Because if I keep putting things off, there's another important lesson: be flexible.
Yeah.
Because like Planchette, I had written the whole script and all these scenes for one place, and we didn't have that, so it was like on the fly. I'm rewriting the script, going, okay, instead we're going to run up the stairs and down the hallway into the bathroom, and so be flexible. So I think that's what I have to do with this one, and hopefully that's resolution number 2 is to get that film finished. By hook or by crook, I want to get it done.
Now, these might be a little bit separate questions. But what do you think is easier or harder to direct and write? Horror, sci-fi? Because I'm assuming that horror might be a little bit easier to write than maybe sci-fi, especially if you're not really doing know much about science and stuff like that. Or what do you think? Is it easier to write sci-fi or horror, or is it easier to direct? Which one is what?
More challenging?
Which is more challenging to write a horror film, or write a sci-fi movie, or direct them?
I definitely find it difficult to write horror, largely because so much of it's already been done. So it's just trying to find that unique spin or that unique perspective. So writing Planchette, it was I literally just thought, okay, so here's what I think a slasher movie would be. Literally it's like, here's what I think would happen, and got good response. But I hear a lot of people say that horror is easy to write, and they think comedy is difficult to write. And I find comedy very, very easy to write, but it's usually dark.
Yeah.
Because there's so many shows and movies and stuff that looking at you, Judd Apatow, and I'm just like, what is funny about this? I'm like, this isn't funny. I don't get it. Why is this funny?
Do you think it's easier to direct a horror or Sci-fi or in
Um,
other words, if you had like one genre that you could like choose to direct, what would it be? Like horror, sci-fi, comedy?
Probably horror. I think I would probably direct horror. Um, I find that pretty. Well, I don't want to say it's easy. I mean, none of it's really easy, but
Mhm.
I think I would. I'd be more likely. I'd be more inclined to direct horror, um, just because it's something I love. I love
Yeah.
I love horror films, and I want to do effects and makeup and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Um, so in a perfect world, you know perfect world, I'd probably direct or even better, do all the do all the gore and effects. That would be that would be fulfilling one more childhood dream, is to do all the effects on a movie.
Yeah.
Is there any one like dream movie that you would like to do? You know, like some book or something that you had read like long ago that you were like, oh man, I'd love to direct this movie. You know, I'd like to make this into a movie and or whatnot. Is there like one that you can think of that you would
You
like
know,
to do that?
I don't know about a book, but I had a conversation with another local filmmaker, Jeff Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
We had a discussion. I don't even want to spoil it because I love the idea so much. Not necessarily a horror.
Mm-hmm.
It might just be a straight up drama, but the idea behind it was so fantastic. I've been bugging him for months. I'm like, Jeff, I think that could be a winner. Like, I really feel like that could go to Sundance or something and like really be a winner. So when are you gonna write that? When are you gonna write that?
Yeah.
How can I motivate you to write that? Because if you don't write that, I might have to steal that idea because I love it.
Well, I've
Yeah.
been waiting for someone to do a Dragon Riders a Pern movie.
Oh,
Hmm. I don't think I'm familiar with that.
yeah, that's sci-fi bordering on fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, when did those books start coming out? Was that in the 80s?
Yeah,
With
something like around
Yeah,
the '80s.
Anne
Yeah.
McCaffrey
Yeah.
wrote the series. And basically, these people go to colonize a planet, and they discover that there's these weird worms that come from the sky and eat stuff and dissolve everything. And then
Yeah.
there's dragons that like naturally developed on that world, and they are like the predators of the worms. Like they take care of them. So
Weird.
it's kind of like the whole setup for the movies. So that's why the dragons are there. Like, okay. And then they're psychic dragons, and I'm like, what? But, when I
Yeah.
first read it, I was like in middle school, so I thought it was really cool because there's a lot of magic in the sci-fi. But now I look at it, and I'm like, maybe. But it could work if you had the right director. It could work really well.
And
Because
if
people
they
love
don't
dragon
do like
movies,
100, do it like all CGI.
right?
Um, I mean, like with like Ryan Reynolds and Green Lantern. I mean, what was the point of doing a CGI Green Lantern costume?
There wasn't.
Did they really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole
it looks
the
so
costume
bad.
was CGI.
It looked like they made a suit out of bacon and colored it green. I'm not joking. Like it's all strips. And I'm like, what the hell? It's just so bad. Actually,
In
my
full
comic,
circle, we're back to comic books.
Yep.
yeah, everything goes back to comics. But yeah, like even they even made fun of it in the Deadpool movie, which also stars Ryan Reynolds. He makes a joke about it. He's like, please don't give me a suit that's green and animated. I'm like, oh my god. So yeah, it's just. Oh yeah, that's yeah.
Oh boy.
Speaking of comic books, are there any horror comic books that you're into or still reading today
Oh
or
my
anything?
God, yes. Oh God, as a kid, loved that stuff. I was reading The Witching Hour.
Hmm.
Swamp Thing was one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Um, was it Tales from? Might have been Tales from the Crypt too.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that was a comic book.
Yes, it was.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I, thinking about it, I'm almost shocked that my mother would let me read that kind of stuff. But she was into horror
Yeah.
and let me watch horrible, horrible things that I shouldn't have been seeing.
Well, she probably
Yeah.
didn't think much of it because she liked it herself, so it wasn't like, oh, I can't let my baby see this. It's too scary. So, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've just started introducing my kids to like gremlins and like monsters. Like, I'm not going to show them. I don't know. I'm not going to show them House of a Thousand Corpses.
No, there's certain things that are
My mom
appropriate.
would.
Yeah. There's things that are appropriate, things that aren't for every age group.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, that's for any kind of genre, anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But,
well, with me, when I bought comic books, I used to buy like 10 or 12 at a time. So if I got like something that my mom or dad I didn't think they would like, I usually buried it in the middle, and then all they saw me carrying was like a Superman or whatnot. And
you'd rip the Archie cover off at the stand and
yeah,
and stuff witching hour inside. Oh, Archie! Oh yeah.
Good times. I can see you doing that too, Tom. Just like, oh, I just got Superman. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It was the same way with movies too. Is that I actually like when Blockbuster was still around, would actually like take movies and switch the covers. I'd take like and steal the cover out of one, and then if I and if I what's the movie that I didn't think Mom would want me to see or whatever, I'd like stick the cover in, so she was like thinking I was like watching The Sound of Music or whatever when it was actually like a slasher movie.
Wow.
So think about the person that was picking up, Friday the 13th and went and popped in the Sound of Music.
Oh, I would have been so pissed.
How disappointed must they have been?
It's like, what the hell is this crap? When does Jason's job to kill this lady that's singing? She's really annoying.
Is she gonna die yet? Oh my God. When does somebody die? Oh, the children are gonna get it.
Or could you imagine something like The Ring, where the people are, thinking, oh, I'm going to watch a movie that, people are supposedly die from, and all of a sudden pop it in, and then all of a sudden it's Sound of Music.
7 days. That gives me an idea for parody, Tom.
I
You did it. You did it. I'm going to blame you on that one.
I figured it would.
I think we covered all of our questions here.
I think the only one that we didn't do, but I think we sort of like touched on, was do you have any advice for people that are interested in making their own horror film?
Yeah, we did that one.
I think we sort of touched on that.
Yeah, we did that one. Yep.
Yeah, I think talking about like the implied horror, I think that's that's a good tip right there. Is don't try to focus so much on the gore and the effects. If anything, focus on the story. Focus on making a good story. And no, I wouldn't even say even limit yourself to trying to do a genre film. Do a film that you're passionate about. Whether it fits into horror or not, or has horror elements, be passionate about it, be flexible about it, and shorter the better, and the simpler. Keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Keep it stupid simple, and don't worry about equipment. Equipment is so inconsequential.
Yep.
Sound is probably the most important. Sound is more important than picture. Make sure you have good sound, and good sound and good story. And you can just say that the bad picture was a style choice.
Yeah, we totally chose to do that. It's great.
It was supposed to be all kind of dark and gritty and.
We did that, and we did that color correct after we.
We overprocessed it because that was an artistic.
Yeah, that reminds me. Like, I've had some discussions with some of my friends that are into making films and stuff, and some of them are so hung up on getting like the brand new cameras, like the red whatever, and like the fanciest, most expensive stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't really need that to make a film. You don't need it. You can just get whatever you can afford, get what's in your budget, or heck, even use your phone to make a movie.
Exactly.
So that's a really good point. And yeah, like you can make a movie scary with less visuals and just make it really still and maybe have some creepy sound effects here and there and kind of make it sound like something.
Build the tension.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Build the tension. Build the sense of impending doom.
Yes.
Well, that's where a good soundtrack comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because like with Friday the 13th, he had the
Yeah.
when he was gonna attack someone.
Yeah.
So and then what sort of made it nice too is that you would hear that, and then nothing would happen. So you were like expecting it, but yet nothing happened.
Yeah. He's part of building the scare. Yeah. Part of building the scare, I think, is making people think something is going to happen, so they get on edge and they're waiting for it, and then it really doesn't. And then they keep waiting and waiting, so they get more and more scared and into it, like, oh man, what's going to happen next? So
and then you unleash the fury.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true. And like, you don't even have to really know a ton. You don't have to be a professional composer either to make music for your film.
And there's so many free resources out there.
There is a lot of free stuff out there. You just have to open up your favorite search engine and look for free sound effects or free music. Because there's even a lot of composers out there that have free tracks that they want people to use in their stuff. And they'll happily give it, because for them it's free advertising. Because they'll just put their name in the credits and they're happy about it. So,
Kevin MacLeod has a ton of stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I think his site is like Incomptech or something like that, and basically it's just just give him credit.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's also there's a library, like an audio library on YouTube that has music, sound effects, and it's all it's all free to use. Some of it has that same type of Creative Commons license. They want to be credited like this and that sort of thing, but it's perfectly free to use in your project.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they forget to give credit to people, so that's the only thing that sort of like ticks me off, is when people use other people's music or whatever, and they don't say whether you ask for permission or not. That's one thing or the other. But when you use it, and then everybody's like, well, I like this music, or I like the soundtrack. Who did it? And they don't give the person credit for it.
Yeah, that goes beyond working for exposure. You're not even giving them the exposure.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate that anyone would do that. I mean, you have to at the very least give credit where credit is due.
On the flip side of that, though, if you're just starting out, don't put your name in the credits like 10 times. You don't. You don't need to be. Nobody needs to know that you did the wardrobe, and you did the set decorating, and you did the this, and you did the that. That just that just looks silly.
Yeah, you're the producer or you're the director. You're not like you're not even accounting and food craft services. So put your name down there. So.
And on that same note is only just credit yourself for what you want to be known for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be known as a director, then just say directed by, or directed and produced, or whatever it is. But don't put directed by and set decorator and wardrobe and.
Yeah, that gets excessive at the very least.
I've seen it. I've seen written by, and directed by, and produced by, and I'm just like, dude.
That's crazy.
Just say a film by. If you did that much stuff, just say a film by Bob Jones.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's just bad form to me. That seems like that even just that visual repetition at the end would be annoying.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we get it, okay? It's your movie, right? just calm down. We know it's yours, okay?
Well, I've seen ones that have gone both ways, and I've seen one that where they have pretty much done everything, but would make up they would just go through the phone book and pick out a name and say, okay, Susan Smith was the art director, John whatever, was the choreographer, or whatever it might happen to be, and stuff. So, even though that he pretty much did everything, he still had, a list of 20 different names, just because he didn't want to have his name on there 20 different times.
To make it look more legit, like, yeah, there's an actual crew working on this film, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, especially true with indie films is that you get so many people that are doing so many different things anyways. You're all wearing so many different hats that it's like, I try to, at the very least, give the, highest level of credit I can. So if there was a PA who was also acting as a camera operator, then I'm going to list them as a camera operator as opposed to production assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was just they stepped in and they're just learning how to do it. Well, you still did it though. You were still
Even if they were like an extra, just
yeah.
walk past, whatever.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, there's even points where I'm trying to remember names of films, and I'm just drawing a blank, but there's even movies where people will help out and do things and then not even want credit on it. For like people that are doing like 10 or 20 different things for different movies and say, oh, I don't need credit for that. And then people find out about it like 5 years later or whatever, and like, oh, this person worked on that. Why weren't their name there? Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it goes many different ways, but yeah, don't overdo the credits for yourself, people. You know who you are. Cut it out. What's wrong with you? Oh, excellent. Okay. I think that pretty much covers it. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Pete, before we go?
Oh, I wish I had something profound or prolific to say, but it's so late here.
Yeah.
My brain is already mush. I'm surprised I made it this far. I don't know how cohesive or coherent this interview is going to be when you go back and listen to it. So my apologies for that.
No, I think this interview went very well, actually. So don't worry. I will edit it so you sound as coherent as possible.
Maybe I'll just edit the audio before I send it to you.
I'm just gonna edit this for you before I send it. Okay.
Yeah, we'll just make Pete sound like he's drunk.
No, I want to make it sound like a professor, Film class with Pete. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on to Terror Talk and talking with us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we wish you all the best in your endeavors, and hopefully we can have you come back on the show in a few months or next year when you have some more projects out, and we can talk about them then.
Yeah, that would be great.
It was great having you, and thanks for your time.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.